Okay, good. Hi, thank you. And it is really good to be back. And you know, I like all these meetings, but this one I've been looking forward to more than the others. So, which is to say a lot. So, what I like to do before we do our question and answer thing, I'm going to give you a little review, as George said, of keyboard shortcuts that I think everyone should know how to use. And so, I'm going to give you a little keynote presentation and we'll take questions at the end of that, and then we've got some questions that are on the list that people sent in advance. So let's just start sharing the screen now. Here we go. Okay, I think get this out of the way, and I'm going to start playing this keynote presentation. Okay, so why do we even use keyboard shortcuts? Well, I can think of 3 reasons. There might even be more. It makes things faster, speeds up your work. It's easier because you're not mousing around, and you make fewer mistakes because you're not going to click in the wrong place because you're going to do a shortcut that is hardwired to do exactly what it is you want it to do. So, so we'll see about that. So let's talk about the basics. So I'm going to talk about 3 keys today. All right, the first one is the escape key up there in the top left. And this is the keyboard I'm showing here is this is a laptop keyboard, but it's pretty similar to a desktop keyboard too. Next key we're going to talk about is the command key. Okay, really good key. And for fun, why don't you look up why the command key looks the way it does. There's a good story there. Okay, and then the other one we're going to do is the return/enter key. That does a lot of good things too. So here we go. So let's talk about using the escape key instead of clicking cancel. So every time you have a button on the screen that says cancel, you can click it by pressing the escape key. So I know escape just says ESC, but that's what it means. It means escape. So it gets you out. So for example, in a print box like this, you see down at the bottom, there's a cancel button right there. And it's faster for me to press the escape key to click that button than it is for me to move the mouse from wherever it is and to click cancel. All right. So if I want to cancel something, I use the escape key there. Here's another example of a cancel button that I could click by just tapping the escape key up at the top left corner. It's way up there. It's away from everything else. You're not likely to hit the wrong button. It's quick and easy. So basically, anywhere you see a cancel button, use that escape key. Like here. So maybe you're about to empty the trash and you think, oh, wait a minute, I want to cancel. Well, you hit the escape button. Maybe you're setting up an email account in Mail and you think, oh, I think I want to cancel and do something else. So you just hit escape. Or here I'm adding a calendar. Or here I'm making a keynote presentation. There's always where there's a big box, the odds are good there's going to be a cancel button and you can hit it with the escape key. Okay, so as the slide says, if that's all you remember from today, you got your money's worth and the rest of the meeting is free. So think about that. All right, so let's talk about command key shortcuts. So this is the command key. There's some real famous ones here, and these are the big 4. Undo, cut, copy, and paste. Now, why are they like this? Why Command Z? Why Command X? Why Command C? And why Command V? Well, partly because the keys that make more sense, like Command P for paste, that's already being used for something else, which we'll get to. But the main reason that it's Command Z, X, C, and V is because those 4 keys are right together. And if you're holding down the command key with your thumb, you can tap the Z, the X, the C, or the V with your index finger. So it's a one-handed job. And if you're a longtime Mac user, you might remember that the original Mac keyboard did not have function keys. It didn't have F1, F2, F3, F4, that kind of thing. It didn't have those keys at all. So this was the only way to trigger an undo, a cut, a copy, or a paste from the keyboard. You had to use Command Z, X, C, and V. Now, what's really nice is those key combinations are always the same everywhere you go. It doesn't matter whether you're using Pages, or you're in Mail, or you're using Chrome, wherever you are. Command C is going to copy, Command X is going to cut, Command V is going to paste, and Command Z is going to undo. Now, let's talk about how do you do this. When I show people how to do things on a Mac, like a keyboard shortcut, they tend to think of it like playing a chord on the piano, that you got to hit all the keys at once. But that's not how it works. If you hold down the Command key with one hand, nothing happens, right? You can hold down the Command key, for an hour, nothing happens. It's sort of like holding down the Shift key. Nothing happens until you press some other key while you're still holding it down. So you can hold Command and then very relaxed come in and hit the Z to undo, or the X to cut. All right, so those are things you've got to use, because they're so much faster than going up to the edit menu and coming down to undo or cut or copy or paste. Now, if you don't know how to cut, copy, and paste and undo, that's something else to learn, and that's not what this is about. But this is how you do those things in a hurry. Okay, let's talk about formatting shortcuts that work all the time. This is going to work if you're trying to make text bold. You can do Command B. And if you want to make it italic, make it Command I. You want to make it underlined, Command U. Whatever's selected is going to get that effect. Now, you do it a second time, and it turns it off. So Command B to make it bold, Command B to make it unbold. And these things are going to work in Pages. It's going to work in Microsoft Word. It's going to work in just about any program that allows you to format text. Okay, so it's way easier to do it like this. Now, Word has its own shortcuts. They also will do this with Command Shift B. That was the way they always used to do it, but they finally kind of got religion and did it the Apple way with just Command B. All right, so those are easy. Here's some other ones you're going to use all the time. Command P for print. Holy cow! If you aren't doing that, start doing it. It's going to make your life faster. Command S to save. Now this is really important, because if something happens to your Mac, like it happened to my Mac, and you didn't save your work, you pretty much lost that work. So you want to save all the time. So if it becomes sort of a nervous habit, like Command S, whenever you reach for the coffee with your right hand, with your left hand, do Command S and save your work. Command Q for quit. Command and the plus to make stuff bigger. So let's say you're looking at a web page and the type is too small. Well, Command plus, every time you hit the plus while you're holding the Command key down, get a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger. And the minus to make it smaller if you get carried away. And then finally, Command W to close the window. So it can't be Command C, because Command C was already used for copy. All right, let's see what else we got here. Now, what if you can't remember this stuff? Well, fortunately, all of these shortcuts are written off to the right in the menus. So if you're used to going to the menu and selecting bold, now if you just look to the right a little bit, you see that it's Command B. If you look at that menu that's on the left there, and italic, the Command I, and the underlined Command U. And there's the bigger and the smaller too. Those came out of that was a Safari menu, but every Apple Mac, every Mac app is going to have shortcuts, and they're going to be listed to the right. Now, here's a funny story. Well, I got my first Mac in 1985, and it was a year after the Mac was introduced, and it was all about the mouse, right? That we all had this sort of beige mouse, and everything was about the mouse, and it was really in contrast to the PC, which was all about crazy keyboard shortcuts that nobody could remember. But then I saw these things on the right-hand side of these menus. I thought my system was corrupted. I thought there was something wrong with putting these strange-looking symbols in there. I probably used it for 6 months before I knew that those were there on purpose, and they were supposed to teach me what the shortcuts were. And so, anyway, if you see those symbols, look at them and try them. Whatever the symbol is, it's going to do what is written in the menu. Okay. So let's see what else we have here. Oh, the bonus tip: the enter and return key. So on some keyboards it says enter, some keyboards it says return. It's the big button on the right, and some keyboards like the one I've got, it says both. So anywhere you see a blue button, the default button, you can click it by hitting return. So here, let's say I wanted to click OK. If I had a box like this up, I would just hit return. I would not try to find the cursor on a big screen, wiggle it around, try to find it, and click OK. No. Just hit the blue, just hit return, and that says, okay, here's another one. I'm about to save this document. I can just hit return, and it will click OK. Here's another one I want to print. I can just I've got my Command P to get this box up, and now I could hit escape to cancel it, which I'm not going to do, or I could hit return to print it. Now, here's one more thing about keyboard shortcuts. You can hit them more quickly than the system can draw them on the screen. So if you wanted to print, you could do Command P and then hit return before the box is actually on the screen with the blue button. It'll work. So you don't have to do Command P, wait for the box to come up, and then hit return. You can do Command P return, and you know it's going to start printing. So you might be faster than the screen, but the system behind the screen is going to catch your shortcuts, and it's going to string them together and do what you asked. And that's it. That's what I've got there for our little preamble. And so now let's look at our list of questions. There's questions about that. Sheeta, do we have questions about that?
You do not.
Okay.
Just praise.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And someone's already asked, is Command period, does that do the same as escape? It does. The original Mac keyboard did not have an escape key. So Apple tried to do the exact opposite of what the PC guys did when they came out with the Mac. And so no escape key, no function keys, no control key, just a command and an option key. So in order to click a cancel button, you did do Command period. It still works. Sometimes when you're stuck, that's a good key to hold down the command and hit period a lot to see if it will get you out of there.
But I do have a comment though. So
Beautiful.
Ward makes a comment that he prefers to hit the enter key on his extended keyboard. But Ward, let me tell you that the return key and the enter key do have different functions. They do not always work the same.
That is right again, as usual. I agree that they're almost the same, not quite, especially if you're using something like Excel where you want to enter a formula. Enter does one thing and return enters it and drops it down a row. There are other differences too. All right, very good. So Command P brings up the print box, and then you have to do something in the print box. Yes. So it would be something like, let's see if I can do a Command P. If I'm here, let's see if I can open up my presentation again, and I'll do a Command P, and you'll see it happen live. Here we go. So I'm gonna do Command P. There's the box, and then I'm gonna hit escape because I'm gonna cancel it. I don't want to print it, but there you go. Command P pops it up. Now you don't see it happen, although if I do it, I'm gonna enable my keystrokes to be viewed on the screen. Here I go. I'm holding down Command and now the P, and so you don't have to hold the P down. You got to hold the command key down. Okay. So now I'm going to bail out of here, and I'm going to turn off the thing that shows all my keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so let's talk now about the.
Christian,
Those are more.
Christian,
Good question.
yeah, one question.
Okay.
I thought our Mac auto saved in Pages and in Numbers and Keynote.
And right, again, that has to do with how the system preferences are set up. And nowadays, that's the default. A program that's one of Apple's programs, one of those, the main ones like Pages, Numbers, Keynote, they do indeed save all the time. And that is not where I'm looking, but it's that's how it works. But a lot of other programs don't do that. So you'll want to save them yourself. So I thought we had oh, here you it's in these options here. So you if it's saving automatically for you, that's great. But if you're using a non-Apple program, it's not going to work the same way. So just be careful out there.
Okay.
Okay. Next, or now we're ready for questions that came in advance, right? Are we ready? Okay, let's do them. Yeah. So we got some really good ones. Sometimes we get questions that they're good, but they're very specific. And this time we have questions that are more general. Okay. So, all right. So we have a question about in mail. The question was, we get a piece of email, and sometimes the pictures don't show up in the email. Okay, sometimes you don't see the pictures, and instead it's some sort of button at the top that says load content, and so on and so forth. And so I'll show you why that might happen to you. When you set up your Mac these days, they ask you some questions about security with the network stuff. And in here, let's see, I hope I do this right. I just did this. Wait a minute. I know the answer. I think it's security. Yeah. Just give me a second here, because I actually answered this question already, and I just have to look it up and see my answer. Yeah, okay, it's actually in Mail. Okay, so when you're in the Mail, if you're using the Mail app, there's a whole lot of preferences. And here they are. And you've got this one down here that says privacy. So when you first get System 12 Monterey on your Mac, you're probably going to be asked a question about whether you want to sort of protect your privacy. And if you do too much of it, if you check too much like this, then you might not get your pictures to come through. So if you're not seeing pictures like I see in here, I see this big 50% off thing. If that just shows kind of a blank box with a little question mark in it, come into the Mail preferences, look over here in the privacy part, turn these things all off, and then quit the Mail and start it again. And I think that'll solve that problem. Because that was a really good question. I like that one a lot, especially as I knew the answer once. Okay.
What's the risk of turning them off?
Well, the risk is that you're back to where you were in System 11 and System 10.15, which is only that the picture is probably tagged so that they will know that you personally opened that email. Okay, I mean, the way this stuff works is they don't send the pictures as attachments. They basically are sending you pictures with they're just sending you emails that are sort of like a web page, where it refers to a picture on a server. And that's why when you get your emails from all the advertisement people, they doesn't look like they have any attachments. Yet they're full of pictures. That's because they are basically web pages that reach out and get the pictures when you open them up. But they're coded in such a way that they know that you with that email address opened their email, because the pictures have a special code on them. So when the picture loads, they say, "Aha, George opened it," or "Aha, Christian opened it." So that's kind of the way the world's worked all along anyway. So it's not like it's some sort of giant invasion of privacy. Or at least it's not a new invasion of privacy. It's the same old one. So not a big risk. Okay, so let's look at this other one here. Here's one about a special key that's on a keyboard you didn't see on my keyboard. I'm gonna show you again a picture of my keyboard. This is if you look up at the Apple menu, you've got, or in the menu bar rather, there's I'm showing the keyboard viewer, which, by the way, you can stretch if you grab it right. There you go. All right, so what you don't see here at the lower left, you don't see a little key with a globe on it. If I had my new Mac, which I don't because it's in the shop, but if I had my new Mac, there would be a globe right down here instead of this function key. And so what does this globe key do? Well, basically when you tap the globe key by default, it brings up this emoji and symbols palette that looks like this. I'm hoping it's coming up. There it is. Looks like this. That's what you get. So you can tap it to make it show up, and you can tap it to make it go away. So the key is going to be down here. It's got a globe on it. And that is just quick access to the emojis. And of course, you can search here. I mean, if I want to find a soccer ball, I can search, and there's a soccer ball, right? So if I want to search for something else, I can find a pumpkin. There's a pumpkin. Okay, so that's a handy palette to bring up. But it's annoying for a lot of people because they're hitting it by mistake. Now, on some keyboards, it's not there. It's in a different place. And I think on an extended keyboard, I think it's over underneath the delete key. And so people are hitting it by mistake. And it turns out that if that's annoying to you, like it would be to me, you can come in here to System Preferences. And in the keyboard section, you will see an option that I can't show you here because I don't have a globe key, but it'll look just like this, and it'll say press the globe key to something. Like you can see right now, I could change my little function key, the FN one, to show emoji and symbols. So now, if I press that key down there on the bottom left corner, the function key, there it is, okay? And I can press it again, it goes away. So if that's annoying you, that globe, go in there to the System Preferences, look for keyboard, and what most people have had me do is make it say do nothing, okay? Just so it's just a dead key. But this is the default choice. Okay, good. Really good question. That was from Chris in the UK. Okay. Right, this isn't a Mac question, but let's keep it fresh, and I'll answer this one about the iPhone 13, iPhone 13 Pro. The question is about charging. Is it okay to charge it overnight? Will this reduce battery capacity? The answer is yeah, sort of. It's okay. Yes, it'll sort of reduce battery capacity, but Apple's on top of this for you. So what they do, here's an iPhone 13 now, and what they do is they charge it up to about 80-85% as quickly as they can, and then it slows down and sort of trickles in. So it'll appear even that it's not charging at all, but it will slowly charge. And so Apple knows that doing it that way prolongs the life of the battery. So you should feel fine with plugging it in and letting the phone manage its own charging. Okay. Another question was along those lines of charging. Do you recommend turning off a desktop computer each night? Well, or a laptop computer? Well, I don't. I mean, I don't do it. There used to be a reason. We used to worry about how long these things would last before they would burn out. We also used to worry about power consumption. Probably the only thing that you would get by shutting down your desktop computer is power consumption. But the electrical engineers in the group will tell you that you wear things out faster when you turn them off and turn them on again. I mean, think of a light bulb. Light bulbs almost always blow out when you turn them on. You don't usually see a light bulb go out when it's already on, like in the middle of the night. If you get a light on, if it's on, it stays on. It doesn't all of a sudden go click and go out. But when you switch it on, that's when it goes boom, and that's because that's when it's the hardest on the electronics. So there's this other school of thought that says don't turn it off because every time you turn it back on, you're stressing electronics. So my theory is always been like if it's a laptop, I'm just going to close it and it'll be sleeping. The Mac goes to sleep anyway. I leave them on. Now another little war story of the old days. When the Mac first came out, it came with a 90-day guarantee. That's it. You didn't get the year that you get now. So what the smart guys did was they plugged them in and kept them on for those 90 days, thinking if it's going to fail, let's find out that it's going to fail. If things going to wear out, let's wear it out in the first 90 days by leaving it on. So at least it will die under warranty. Okay, I never saw that happen, but it seemed like a good strategy, and so that's what I did. Okay, let's go on. Any more questions about that, about the power?
No questions about the power, but there is a question. Someone was asking, can you really explain what function keys are and why they're there?
Well, okay, this kind of goes back to the presentation I was doing before, that the idea with a function key is that it's an alternate way and it's a quicker way to do something as opposed to going to the menu. Like if I wanted to make a new Finder window, I could go up here to File and select New Finder Window, and here's a window. Okay, I'll close this one. Or I could learn that Command N makes a new Finder window, just like Command N makes a new email message when you're in Mail, or Command N makes a new Safari window when you're in Safari. So I'm going to do it now. I'm just going to I'm going to show my keyboard. I'm going to hold down the command and I'm going to tap N and I get my window. So I didn't have to move the mouse and I didn't have to even find the cursor. I could just Command N, just done. So it's a quicker way to do things, and it's really much more efficient. So that's sort of the point of function keys. So if you learn these basic ones, you'll save a lot of time.
Dude, Christian, was that an explanation for shortcuts or function keys? With the function key, you have the FN, and then you have the keys across the top.
Okay, I understand. It's a little slightly different question. Yeah, you're right. When you look at a keyboard, I'll show you my keyboard again. Something
is covering your microphone, Christian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay, because it keeps going in and out.
Okay, well let's do something about that. Give me a moment and let's see if I can get.
You're great now. You're great right now. Yeah.
Good now? Okay. You got me. That's something new to me. Okay, I'll try to be loud anyway. So when you look at a keyboard like this, the top row of keys has some pictures on it, and if I press the one that looks like a little sun over here, it'll get dimmer. And this one with the big sun, it's going to get brighter. And this one over here makes it louder, and this one makes it softer. This one makes it muted. So I'm gonna do the darker, so you can see it's getting darker, 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 brighter, 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 and that's great, except that the program you're using might want to do something else with those keys up there. So they actually have two functions. The keys have the function that they perform when you're not holding down the FN key, this one down here. Then they'll have the function that they perform when you do hold it down. So if I hold the function key down as I'm doing now, you can see that all of a sudden this top row of keys is F1 through F12, and it's doing whatever the particular program I'm in has assigned to those keys. So how you find out how these work is, again, in system preferences. Let's move this keyboard out of the way. But in the system preferences, in the keyboard section, you have an option. You can say that I want to use F1 and F2 all the time. I don't want to make things brighter and dimmer when I click these buttons. Instead, I want to do whatever it is I want F1 and F2 to do. Well, if I do that, then pressing F1 does not make it dimmer, and F2 does not make it brighter. But if I hold down the function key, basically it's the opposite. Okay, if I find myself using the bright and the dim and the loud and the soft a lot, I don't want to have to hold the function key down to do it. So I would do it this way. If I don't do those things a lot, then I would do it this way. Okay, so it's kind of there's like two layers to what those keys can do. Does that seem like I answered the question?
Yes.
I think so. That was okay, but thanks for the clarification. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a question about adding photos directly from a web page into the Photos app. Well, that's pretty easy if you're using Safari. So let's go to Safari, and I'm going to show you how we could do this, because it illustrates something that is not hidden. It's right in front of us, but we don't often pay attention to some of these things that are right in front of us. So I'm going to go to I'm going to go to ESPN, I think, and see if there's a picture here that I want. Doesn't matter where I go. I just need something with pictures. Okay, so suppose I want this picture to be saved into my Photos app. There's different ways I could do it. I mean, I could grab this picture and drag it off like this, park it on the desktop, and then import it into Photos. That would work. Okay, that would work. But easier, faster, and one stepper is for me to hold the control key down. Okay, this key that Apple never had, right? But now they've got it. Control, and I'm going to click on this thing. And look at this. I can just say add image to photos. So this is built in. So when I do this, this picture is going to go straight to photos. And you probably see photos is going to bounce. Well, it's the first time I've used photos on this Mac, but since I upgraded it. But so that picture, if I look at all photos, I should see, there it is. I just added that picture, okay? So let's do that again in slow motion. What if I want this picture? Well, I can hold the control key down, click on the picture, it drops this menu, and I'm gonna say add this image to photos. So if I look back here at photos again, here it is. Come on, there you are. So that's so much easier than any other way to do it. So now I'm not sure that it works in Chrome, but for Safari, that's the way to go. So I'm gonna consider that question answered. All right, let's do another one. Okay, so here's a question about VPN. You know, I saw that you've got a class coming where we're gonna have someone who's really an expert on this talk about VPNs. I'm gonna leave that question to him. Except I will say this: when you use a VPN, you're doing it because you want some privacy, you want some security. But when you choose a VPN provider, what is a VPN? Virtual private network. It's as if you've got your own wires, but it's not really true. You're using the same wires you've used all along. It's just that there's sort of a cloaking being involved. Uh, anyway, a virtual private network is supposed to be a good thing, but the cloaking, the encrypting, and the decrypting always slows you down a little bit. So that's a downside. But the big downside is you have to trust the VPN people, whoever you contract with to provide this VPN service. Now you trust them, and how do you know who these guys are? How do you know that you do trust them? How do you know that they don't have security issues that someone's going to exploit? The odds are pretty slim that someone wants to attack you in particular. They want to attack big places where there's lots of names and addresses and activity, and that's not you. Like, no one wants to hack your machine to get to your bank account. They want to hack the bank to get to everyone's bank account. So I'm not a giant fan of VPNs across the board. There's sometimes you've got to have it, but because of those problems, the speed problem, the question of who do you trust, I don't recommend it in general. Now, I'm glad to be educated in the class that's coming up in a couple of Saturdays, but for now, that's my take. Okay, let's look at one more here. Okay, so the question here is about parameter RAM and zapping the parameter RAM. Now, this is sometimes called zapping the NV RAM, because that's NV stands for non-volatile, and RAM stands for random access memory. So there's typically, memory. When we talk about memory, we're talking about two things, generally speaking. There's a kind of memory like your hard drive, where your stuff is saved, and it survives through the machine being turned off and on again. It can be turned on. It could be off for a month, and you turn it on, and your stuff is still there. Okay, well that's the kind of memory that we use ourselves. This is stuff that where your hard disk fills up, like here. If I look at about this Mac, we're talking about storage. Okay, so here, this machine only has a little bit of storage, 121 gigs. I've used about 60% of it. I've got this much left. Okay, but there's also this other kind of memory that's 8 gigabytes. So I've only got 8 gigs of that kind of memory, and I've got 121 gigs of this kind of memory. This is the thinking memory. This is the memory that the machine uses when you're computing things, when you're doing stuff. This is its active, sort of mind space. Think of it like this. This is one of the first analogies I ever made that has to do with the Mac. Think of the hard disk as a closet. You've got a lot of shoes in your closet, but you can only wear 2 of them at a time, unless you're that special person with 3 feet. But so I grew another foot when I went to college. That's a joke. Anyway, the amount of shoes you can wear is limited by how many feet you have, and it's sort of like this. This amount of memory is sort of the amount of feet. You can store a lot of stuff, but you can only use some of it at a time, and that's kind of what's going on here. But that memory goes away; it gets flushed every time you restart the Mac. So it's volatile. It's volatile. It goes away. So there's non-volatile RAM. So now we're going to finally talk about what non-volatile RAM is, and then what happens, what it's for and what happens when it goes bad. So non-volatile RAM survives a restart. You can turn the Mac off. You can disconnect it from power. It doesn't matter whether it's a desktop or a laptop. Certain things are remembered, like it remembers how fast you like the mouse to move. It remembers how loud you like it. It remembers how bright it was. It remembers the time. The clock still works. Actually, that's it's not. There's a battery for that. But this non-volatile RAM keeps your Mac acting like your Mac, even after a restart. But that chunk of information is looked at every time the Mac starts up. And that's, it reads this and it tries to apply those settings to your Mac as it starts up. Well, if that memory gets corrupted and mixed up, then every time you start up, your Mac is trying to read this mixed up stuff. And so you end up with problems. You end up with a machine that either won't start or it does start and it doesn't act right. So there is a method for sort of flushing that memory. And when I said that memory doesn't go away when you restart, well, it'll go away and you get to start over if you hold down certain keys when you start up. So I'm going to show you those keys in a sec. Now, starting over doesn't mean your computer gets erased. It just means that it's going to forget how loud you like things to be. It's going to forget how bright you like things to be. It's going to forget how quickly you like the mouse to move. So what one does, now if you're a longtime Mac user, this is old news, boring, but it's good stuff to know. So it takes 4 keys to do it. You've got to hold down these two, Command and Option. Now, why this is the Option key, I don't know why that's a symbol for Option, but it is. But you hold those 2 down. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm holding 2 of them down. You can see down there I'm holding these 2. But it turns out these are also Command and Option keys. But I'll hold these 2 down. And then, so what we would do is we would restart the machine, and quick, as fast as you can, as soon as it goes off, and you know it's going to start up again, you're going to hold down these 2, Command and Option, but you're also going to hold down the letter P. You're also going to hold down the letter R. So P for parameter, R for RAM. So you start it up, you get the keys down, you hold this down like this, and then your Mac will begin to start up, and then it's going to start up again. And it'll make a bong, and it'll start up again. As long as you keep holding the keys down, it's going to go bong over and over. When you've done it, really 1 time is enough, but a lot of people like to do it 3 times. It won't make it worse, won't make it better either, but just after you've let it bong a couple times with Command Option P and R, then let go, and then it'll start up normally. And you'll definitely notice the chime will get louder when it restarts when you're holding it that way. So that's a good keyboard shortcut to know about, kind of in the troubleshooting way. There are others, and you can look these things up, but if you forget the keys, just remember it's called zapping the parameter RAM. Okay, good question there. All right, that was from Liam, all the way to Boston. Okay, so those were the questions. We have more from today. I see we got a lot going on in the chat. What's
Well, someone was a little concerned between knowing what RAM is and what storage is, the different differentiation of them.
Okay, I thought we talked about that, and I thought I was great, but I will do it again. Storage is the hard drive. Think of, your Mac has a hard drive. It might be solid state. It might be a spinning disk, but that's the part that is shown here when you do about this Mac. This storage, this is where you save stuff. This is where your pictures are. This is where your documents are. They're all stored on the hard drive, and it looks, it may show up on the desktop like this. It might not. Some Macs are, in fact, most Macs are set to not show the hard drive here. But this is where my stuff is. If I look in here, here's my stuff. I've got an applications folder, a desktop folder, a documents folder. And so this is my stuff. Okay. That's the hard drive, and that's storage. But, you know, look, I've got, if I look at this, let's look at this Mac again. I've got this applications folder. Look at all these programs I have. Lots of programs. According to down here, 59 programs. If I wanted to use one of these programs, I choose the one I want to use, and it opens up. So let's say I want to open up, I'll open up Chrome. Okay. Well, all those other programs are just sitting there in storage. They're benign. It's like the rest of the shoes in the closet. They're just sitting there until I want to use them. And similar to shoes, if I want to use a different program, I'm going to have to, I hope I have enough memory to put it in to load that program. But if I don't, I'll have to quit something. And you can tell how much memory things are using, because in the Finder, you have a utilities folder. In the utilities folder, you've got activity monitor. Everyone has one of these. So in here, I can see where my memory is going. I'm going to sort these things to show memory. Down here at the bottom, they show me I have 8 gigabytes of memory. These are chips. Okay, I don't happen to have a chip sitting around with me, but it's a computer chip. They're usually green with black stuff on them. I've used 5.33 gigs of my 8. So if I needed another 5 gigs to open up a different program, I would need, something's got to happen. I don't have 5 gigs to go. I only have 8 minus 5, which is, 2.7 almost. So what happens is when you go to open up the next program, so I'll just open up back to applications like this. I'll just open up something we do a lot. I'll open up Safari. And how can I do this? Well, I can do it because the programs are well behaved, and they share nicely. Okay, but they're not getting as much memory as they want, so they're not running efficiently. They would run more efficiently if they could have more. So I'm gonna go here and open up a couple more things, and basically what happens is the Mac slows down. I'll do that one, and I'll open up my keynote presentation again. Okay, so if we look here, I'm getting closer to running out of memory, but it's it's being managed. But think of this. Let's say whoever asked that question is a good question. I'm gonna pretend we're gonna go out to lunch, you and me. Okay. Let's say we go out to lunch and we get a pizza, right? So if we get a pizza, if we get a big pizza, let's say we get a pizza that's called the 32 gig pizza, big pizza. I get to eat all I want, you get to eat all you want, and we have leftovers for a friend. But let's say we get the small pizza, it's this big, the 8 gig pizza. Now, I'm a polite guy, you're polite, we are not. I want the whole thing. I want this thing. I'm hungry, I want it, I need it. But I'm a nice guy, so I'm gonna take half of it, and you're gonna get the other half. We both go hungry, but we play nice. That's why we want more RAM. When you buy a machine, we want to be able to buy the bigger pizza. We want more, because then each program can get what they want. Does you like that one? Makes me hungry. Yeah.
That was good.
Thank you. All right. I'll take another question. What have we got here?
I think you're caught up, really.
Okay, so we've got 5 minutes to go. I would encourage you to learn some keyboard shortcuts. They are so much. You make such a difference in your life to use the keyboard instead of the mouse. I know we're big mouse people because I mean, it's kind of the Mac's claim to fame, but the keyboard does make it faster. So if you want to get better and feel more comfy with the machine, learn some keyboard shortcuts. Now, I didn't scratch the surface of what you can do with the keyboard, but that's a really good start. Now, one other thing you can learn if you really want to take this to to the higher level, there are programs that you can buy. There's even some free ones that will let you program keys to do what you want them to do, even if they don't do that right out of the box. So, for example, I have here a keyboard. Hope you can see this. I can't really see. Oh, here I am. Let's see here. So in this keyboard, I've got
we can see it.
stickers. I put stickers on the on some of the keys, these function keys, because I wasn't using F3 and F4 and F5 and F6. So I used a program called Keyboard Maestro to assign certain functions. So when I press the F3 key, it launches the calendar. When I press the F4 key, it opens the mail. Now it doesn't open it on this machine because this is sort of a temporary setup. But on my regular machine, that's what it does. So Keyboard Maestro is the king of the king when it comes to programming function keys. There are other things that are free. You can get them at the App Store. Look for keyboard shortcuts or something like that, and you'll find some free apps that let you program things. It's really quite handy. There's nothing faster than just tapping a key and seeing Safari come up full screen. Tap another key, calendar's full screen. No more shuffling windows around. Okay, so that's my sales pitch for that. I have no connection to Keyboard Maestro other than I use it.
All right,
since you work just as well.
Since you showed the keyboard, someone wants to know, where did you get the stickers?
I made them. This is a great question. So I printed them out on label paper, and I cut them with scissors. But I wish someone would sell those on Etsy. Now I'm going to show you. This is a bonus. I'm going to show you how to get the icons. Okay, I've got 3 minutes. I'm going to do it.
No, Christian, you really got about 15 minutes.
Oh, marvelous. Okay, good. Then I won't rush. Okay, so look, let's say I wanted to make a sticker with the icon for Safari. Okay, so here's Safari. How am I going to get a nice icon like that? Well, I can come over here and look at these, view these by view them as icons. So I want that icon. How can I do it? Well, there's various ways. Here's how I do it. I use the control key. I'm holding down the control key and I click on Safari and I get info. Okay, that's my first move. So I get info. And then what I do is I click on this tiny little icon up in the top left, and it doesn't look like anything happens, but it does select. You can see it's got a border around it now. It's selected. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to copy. Now, I'm going to do it like this. I want you to see what I'm doing, but of course, what I really do is Command C. Okay, so I copy this. All right. Now what do I do? Well, now I go to the preview program that everyone has. So I've copied this thing, and they want to know, what do I want to do? I'm going to come here to File and say New from Clipboard. Of course, I would do Command N. When I do this, it makes me a new document, and it shows me this icon, sort of this icon package. All these different icons, actually, it's the same icon in different sizes. So when you're viewing these, you can say, well, show me show me things at actual size. This is actual size. So that's a beautiful icon. And now what I want to do is I want to print just this one. Well, what I ended up doing was making a pages document and taking an icon at a time and putting it in there. So I'm going to copy this one, copy, go to pages, and I'm going to paste. So here comes pages. We're only using things that are built into your Mac. You all have this already. So here's pages. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make a new document. This little bonus. If I remember right, Sheeta did a nice presentation about pages, and I'm going to just add one thing to it, which is that there's two kinds of documents with pages. There's a kind of normal word processing document where you type and new pages get added as you go. And then there's sort of the page layout kind, which I'm going to do now. I'm going to make this a page layout one, because when I do this, I can move things around as graphic objects, and it's just easier for what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to now paste my picture. Remember, I copied it a long time ago. And here, I think I'm looking for my paste. Well, it didn't come in, but I'll just see if I can just drag this in. There we go. How's that? Okay, there's my picture. So this thing is scalable. I can make it as small as I need to make it, so it's the right size for my keyboard. And there it is. So I can go get another one. We'll just do another one real quick, and then I'll pretend that I'm going to print this out. So preview wants to know, do I want to keep it? No, I'll delete it. Okay, so let's look back here. Applications. I'm going to say, well, I also like to use mail a lot, so I'm going to control click here, get info. I'm going to click here on the icon. I'm going to copy, and of course I command seed it, right? Okay, we'll put those away. We'll go to preview, make a new document from the clipboard. Here's the icon, looks great. I'm just going to I'll grab this one, and I'm just going to drop it down here. And so in theory, here I have two things. I can size this by eye because I've got these nice guidelines that Apple puts in here. So now these two things are the same height. And so I would print these out, cut them out with the X-Acto knife or the good scissors, and stick them on the keys. Now on an older Mac, you've got a nice black bezel across the bottom of the screen. You can put them there too. All right, so that's how I do that. So these are beautiful icons. The icons themselves are just fantastic, and there's a lot of detail in them if you know where to look. If you look at these icons like this is the little one. This is how it looks when it's miniature, and here's how it looks at bigger sizes. This is the biggest one here. You see incredible detail. I mean, look, did you know that it said Apple Park, California on the return address on the icon? I didn't either. Okay, now we know. So that's fun, right? All right, so that's that.
There is a question that I would like you to ask or answer. Tom, it goes back to RAM. Tom Durkin, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yes. Don't Macs have virtual? I know virtual storage slows things down, but is it so possible to run out of RAM, really run out of RAM?
It's really hard. That's a great question. They've all been great, by the way. I don't want to make the other people think they weren't great too. The Mac figures out, the Mac system manages this. This is why we have why work continues on the operating system is to make things better. And one of the things it does is the Mac now manages the amount of memory you've got. And so if I have two programs that both want 5 gigs of memory, but I only have 8 installed, it's easy math to see that can't work, right? They both want 5. 5 times 2 is 10, 10 is bigger than 8, it's not going to work. When I open up the third program, the fourth program, the fifth program, that should be impossible. But what Apple does is they park the amount of memory that's being used by programs that aren't currently being used, the ones that are in the background. Those get kind of parked on the hard drive. Then the RAM is flushed and becomes available to the next program. And it's slower. So the reason why, I guess I should have said, why do we have all of this storage but so little RAM? It's because the RAM, that 8 gigs of memory, is super expensive because it's super fast. And so the storage it's also expensive, but it's way slower and it's way cheaper. So we have lots of storage and not very much memory for doing the thinking. And so Apple has to use some of the slow stuff to temporarily shuffle things around. Now this is sort of like that riddle, that puzzle, where you've got a goat, a wolf, and a head of cabbage, and you've got to get across the river, and you only take 2 at a time, right? So there's all this shuffling, and eventually you get them all across, because you take the goat and the lettuce, you come back with the goat, you send the wolf over, you leave the wolf. Okay, you know that one. Well, all of this shuffling means that there's a speed penalty there, because you're shuffling stuff around. And so this is why when you buy your Mac, you really want to buy it with a little bit more memory, the RAM. You want to buy a little bit more than you really think you need, because you can never add to it. And if you're wrong, if you guess wrong and you buy not enough, you will experience slowdowns. And each year, the system itself needs more RAM just to turn on. So you won't be sorry by buying extra RAM to begin with. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
That's
Okay, good. All right.
Good.
Remember that: the wolf, the goat, and the cabbage.
Mhm.
That explains everything.
It does. All right, all yours.
Okay. So no other questions. Well, I'm gonna do something else.
Well, okay. Well, your something else entails what?
I don't know. I mean, I thought I would look for some interesting keyboard shortcuts and see if I could maybe teach you one more.
All right.
Unless you've got something else that you rather do.
Well, no, I don't. Someone has a question that is related to the iPhone, and
Sure,
I know
bring it on.
we want to you. Okay, if you're willing, China, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. I was shown that I could eliminate a lot of apps that are running in the background besides that process that you can swipe up from the bottom and swipe them out. Are you aware of that? Was I dreaming when the individual told me?
Well, I don't know if you were dreaming, but I think when it comes to the iPhone, programs that are not active are just sitting there. They are not using up computer power. They're not using battery power. And the conventional thought is, I should kill all these apps. So we do that business where we swipe up and we do this. We get it looking like this. We go swipe, 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 and kill all the apps, thinking that we're doing something good. But the system manages it for you. And in fact, you make it worse by swiping up and killing all the apps. There are some exceptions, but mostly, generally speaking, an app that is not being used, in other words, the app that's not in the front, is not going to use any battery at all, and it's not going to slow down the phone at all. What does use battery is when you have to load the program, you have to load the app because you killed it before. So the first time it loads, it uses up extra battery. So if you're in the habit of killing the apps all the time, then that means that every time you load them, you're using a little bit of extra battery. And so your battery life actually goes down. So you're way better off just leaving it alone. Now, the exception is there's certain apps that use your location all the time. And that would be the maps. Other things that need to know where you are, Google Maps, Apple Maps, things that have asked you, can we use your location? Those things, those apps will drain the battery even when they're in the background. Okay, so that's a good question, a very good question. But that reminds me of another question that was sort of asked in an email, but not quite. It was about apps that launch automatically when you start up, and we're not sure why that happens. Well, here's why it happens. So when you go to the system preferences on your Mac, we go to, I hope that was a nice segue there. We're going to go to users and groups because you're going to have a user. Okay. Now, most people are going to have one user, and it certainly shows you the current user up here. That's me. These other users are sometimes when I do a presentation for you, I use this other user, which is laid out a little bit differently. But what we see here in the current user is login items. Now, login items, in my case, it's empty. Because as I think I mentioned, this is not a Mac I use all the time. But if I wanted an app to be in here, if I wanted an app to automatically start up, if every time I turn on the machine and sign in, I want the mail to come up, I would add the mail to this list. There are 3 ways that I know to do that. I'm going to show you how to do it, but the important thing is also how to get it out. So I'm going to add one now. So let's suppose I'm on the mail. I'm going to click here in the dock on the mail. I'm still holding it down, holding the clicker down. Go up here to option. I can say open at login. That means when I sign in, when I turn the Mac on, when I put my password in, does it run at startup? And what should happen is it shows up here. If I change my mind, if I don't want that to happen anymore, I'll hit the minus here. That's different than hitting hide. We're gonna say nope, I don't want that to happen. Another way to get it in here would have been to hit this plus and then climb around in this box that my friend Tom called the dead end box, because you look at this box, what do I do now? Well, I know what to do now. You're gonna go to applications and you're gonna scroll down here and you're gonna find the thing you want. And here it is. So I can add it this way, and now it's here again. Get rid of it again. And the third way to do it would be to sort of visually be looking at the applications and say, I want, every time I start up, I want the mail to, make sure you can see the mail here. I want the mail app to start, I just drag it in here like this. So if I also wanted messages to run when I start up, and I also wanted the calendar to pop up, I could do all these things. And if I restarted the Mac, these 3 things would load. Now, what happens sometimes is people have clicked on an app by mistake, and they've added it to open it login. Now, I can get rid of it too. I can go here and say, don't open it login. If I select it and it's already checked, it disappears. And in theory, it's gone here too. So more than one way to do it. Now, if you look at your login items, you're going to see some things probably like you'll see if you're using Dropbox. Dropbox has to load when you turn the machine on, otherwise it won't work. And other things might need to load too. So don't be surprised that you see things in there. But if you see things that you don't recognize or that you change your mind on, this is where you turn them off. So system preferences, users and groups, and then login items here. Okay, good. All right, that's it. I think this would be out of time, right? We're about done?
You're about done. Yes, you have really 2 minutes, which really, it doesn't give you enough time. So
Okay.
we appreciate you. We appreciate all of the questions that were asked, and everyone, thank you so much. With that, we're going to turn it over to George.
Excellent.